Who's Scruffy-Looking?
Hello there, all you Jawas and Jerbas, and welcome to the Scruffy-Looking podcast, where we talk about all things related to that galaxy far, far away. My name is Dakota Hayden, and alongside with me is my co-host and dad, Mark Hayden Jr.
Hello.
How's it going, Dad?
Doing well. How you doing?
Doing well myself. So for today's episode, also, new studio. Isn't that kind of cool?
Yeah.
We're moving up, or as I say, we're moving down, considering this is downstairs from our last studio. So mixing things up a little bit. So in today's episode, we've touched on this series a little bit in previous episodes, but I wanted to go through and talk about our thoughts on the Kenobi series. But I remember being super hyped for it, and there was things that I liked about the Kenobi series, but there was a lot of things that I also didn't like about the Kenobi series. So overall, what was your initial thoughts about the Kenobi? Were you satisfied with the story that they told, or do you wish you would have seen it some different things?
Overall, it was okay. There's some things I wish they would have done different. Some really, really good stuff in it, and some kind of maze stuff. I thought they made Reva too big of a character. Yeah. I felt like she got where it was starting to become almost her story more than Obi-wan sometimes. I didn't mind her. I feel like when Vader stabbed her, that if she would have died there, that would have been, that's how I would have ended her.
Yeah, I think that would have been.
When, in that final episode when you're seeing Vader and Obi-Wan duel, the cutting back over to, I didn't need to see her messing around with Owen and Beru. That just kind of felt forced in there. I didn't really care for that part of it. And then we got another, I'm tired of redemption. So it's like, and then now the question is, what's she out there doing in the galaxy?
Yeah, that's another loose end that we don't have.
Too many loose ends, but overall, I like the battle between Obi-Wan, the second one, for sure. Still think it would have been cool if that's when Kenobi would have found out that was Anakin.
Yeah, I think that was a big moment that they could have done right there. The first encounter, I liked Vader walking through the streets and being all evil, but I don't know if it's how they filmed it or what. It just, I don't know, it just wasn't very satisfying to me. Yeah.
And then it's like, I get the fire thing with Vader and Anakin, from Mustafar, but how him and the stormtroopers just kind of stood there on that side of the fire. It's like, oh, they're getting away now. What I'm saying? I had all this rage, I was going to kill you, but there's a fire. I'm not going to walk around or use the force and
it doesn't make sense. And I feel like there wasn't. They needed to have him get away, and they're just like, we need to throw that in there real quick. They didn't write around that.
Now, if they would have had some dialogue leading up to that, where we're gonna let him escape to see if he leads us to anybody else, that would have helped that a lot, I think.
For sure. But yeah, I agree with you. I enjoyed it, but there's a lot of things that I feel like were missed opportunities, and especially with a big character that Obi-Wan is, I feel like there was just they were trying to go one way, but it didn't necessarily work out. But I mean, as you said with Reva's character, I liked her character, but I just think there was too much of her. She needed to stay as a side character. It became more of, I think everybody was saying, like, this is like the Reva show rather than the Obi-Wan show.
At points it did feel like that.
Yeah. But I thought as an Inquisitor, as her story of being a Jedi youngling that survived the Temple onslaught, I thought that was quite interesting. But I'm with you when Vader should have stabbed her. And it doesn't feel like anybody dies from getting stabbed by lightsabers anymore.
Yeah.
So
I like the memes you see of like Qui-Gon,
like
what? But then the Inquisitor got stabbed too. Then isn't the canon or something that species has like two stomachs or something like that?
Yeah.
That's not. I was excited to see the Grand Inquisitor. I liked him a lot in Rebels. I still don't understand, and I know other people brought this up, why they couldn't make him look more like the guys in Revenge of the Sith.
Yes.
Would have helped a little bit. Even if they would just gave him the fang teeth or something, would have helped.
It was just too humanoid. Like his face was just too round for the species that he was supposed to be.
Yeah. But I liked how they used him, really, other than, I guess the only thing, when she stabbed him and then he kind of disappeared, it's like, well, we got to get him out of the way for a while now. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I like that Inquisitor character overall and everything. I think I would have changed his look a little bit. Even with Reva, all the other Inquisitors seem to have helmets or something on their head. I mean, the Grand Inquisitor's got those.
Yeah.
If they would have gave her some kind of helmet or something on her head, would have kind of maybe helped her look. I don't know, she just kind of seemed, when you have them all together in a group, she just seemed weird. The other ones had the helmets or something, and she just kind of, look.
And like, even for a couple of
scenes. My hair
exactly, yeah. I mean, even just for at least a couple scenes, I feel like, because it definitely sticks out but I guess for storytelling purposes, I get why they would want that, but at the same time, like, during some of her action scenes, couldn't you have, like, had some kind of battle gear or some kind of helmet on for that, just to kind of match the outfits, really, of all the other Inquisitors.
And I liked, off the top of my head, I can't remember the actor and actress's name, but Beru and Owen. Yeah. It was good seeing them back. You know, I liked them a lot too. I liked almost all the parts of them except for the fighting with Reva. That whole
scene just seemed unnecessary.
Yeah.
And like, even with Reva encountering Luke, and where they had to make it where Luke didn't see her, so he doesn't know what the Force is.
Didn't see the lightsaber and all that stuff.
That it seemed unnecessary for a redemption arc, which that's overplayed at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I speak for a lot of people when we want bad guys to just be bad guys. And just kind of let them play their course and stuff, because you can have some really good characters that were just bad. That doesn't mean we hate them. We're just like, wow, that was a really good bad guy. We're satisfied to see their downfall, but we can look at them and be like, that was a really good character.
And I'd like to see more. What was called the Way, where they're not there. What was it called? Where the underground thing where they
what was it called? I'll find it later and I'll put an annotation down there. But
for some reason my brain's brain fog. It's like it's not the Way. It's not a bunch of Mandalorians.
But that pathway where they were smuggling out jet. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I would like to see that explored more in some kind. And he mentioned Quinlan Voss. That'd be neat to see.
Yeah, for sure.
They seem to be like they're going to be cutting back from the series and stuff. If they need ideas or something, I'd like call it Star Wars Tales or something like that, and have a 8-episode season, and have each episode just be 45 minutes about something. Like you can have a 45-minute episode about Quinlan Voss and that, and then maybe jump over to something else and kind of give us kind of like the Tales of books used to be, and do that. I'd enjoy something like that. I think each week visit a new maybe time period or planet or location or something.
Yeah, just little lore bites here and there, just of characters that we know about that are doing stuff. I think that'd be good. I think that'd be good. Okay, so in regarding to Obi-Wan's character in the series, how did you think he was portrayed? As in, like, his motives, like, because when we meet him in the series, he's kind of like, he's cut off from the Force. He's kind of just like, kind of in a slump. And I thought that resonated pretty well as from what I would expect his character to be like, escaping, like after everything that's happened and just being a hermit on Tatooine.
Yeah, I thought overall I liked how they handled his character. Kind of realizing his role in the galaxy now is to watch over Luke and and just stay out of things and do that. And I thought they did a good job of kind of making him, even though he was doing that role, you could tell there was a kind of like he was kind of felt defeated or something, you know, and stuff.
I thought they did pretty well by that, and like his redemption story from going to be kind of cut off to the Force to regaining that by the end of the series. I enjoyed that and seeing that. And spoilers alert. Spoiler alert for anybody that hasn't seen it yet. Absolutely go check it out. But when he meets Qui-Gon at the end, when he finally reconnects with the Force, I thought that was kind of a nice thing.
Yeah, I like that, but the one thing I feel like is a missed opportunity not to have them have some more screen time together. And I don't know what you had them do, but seeing them interaction or something more. You know, I mentioned Obi-Wan finding out, you know, Vader was Anakin when they had their duel. Even if they would have done it where in like the old Legends, where Kenobi's in the canteen and he sees something about Darth Vader on the screen, and then Qui-Gon, you know, talks to him and he's like, you know, Qui-Gon, is that Anakin? And he's like, yes. And even if they would have done something along those lines, I just felt you got Ian Neeson back, and then you just used them. Like that's all you used them for, is that little scene. So it makes you wonder if there was anything they edited or I'm sure changed around. If he was supposed, it just seems like a waste to bring him in for that little part. You know, and the funny thing is that was one of the things I was most looking forward in the series, is because you knew at some point he was going to pop up. And really, when I was watching that final episode, I kind of forgot that we hadn't seen him yet. And then when he was riding, I was like, "Oh yeah, we hadn't seen Qui-Gon yet."
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it would have been neat to see more of him. And that the actress that played the young Princess Leia, I thought she did a really good job. There's parts of that story that kind of fell flat for me, but boy, she was amazing. I thought when in my mind, when I imagined how a young Princess Leia would be, her kind of little attitude and all that stuff, I thought she did that perfect. Yeah, she did a great job.
I thought so too. I feel bad because she portrayed her so well, but there was definitely a lot of scenes in there that I thought was just kind of taken away from the main story. I have my own thoughts about him even meeting her in the first place this young, but I thought the portrayal of a young Princess Leia was really good. I got to bring up the chase scene on Alderaan when she's running away.
Yeah, that was a little,
those mercs. That just seemed a little bit.
There
could have been a better way to handle that. I mean, you didn't really even need it anyway. You could have just been like, she's been snatched.
Yeah,
that's really it.
Yeah, what happened to her?
Yeah. That just seemed unnecessary.
Yeah, they could have. Them guards could have came out in the woods and found her shoe, or even found Lola, and you see the ship blasting away, and they're like, bail, something's happened to Leia. So,
but no, I think she did her. She did her character just a young Princess Leia very well. Yeah, go for it.
I do like, probably next to, second only to the Kenobi and Vader second fight, I think my favorite scene in the whole series is at the end when Kenobi comes to Alderaan and he kneels down and he tells Leia, "You have these qualities of your father and these qualities." I love that part. That's really neat. I really like that a lot.
I do too. I like that.
And then they kind of snuck in. Well, call me Ben. We can't let anybody know that we know each other. And I was like, okay, well, there's how you get around
for sure.
Some of the things.
I was at first when that happened, I was a bit like, I wish he didn't, like, he just stuck to the Ben alias the whole time. But then I was like, I was able to get over that.
Yeah, once they kind of,
a little while.
At least they addressed it. If they wouldn't have addressed it, would have been more of an issue to me. But I like that scene a lot.
Another one of the scenes that I really liked was the flashback scenes with Anakin and Obi-Wan training in the temple.
Oh, yeah.
I thought those were really, albeit the technology to de-age, I think Ewan McGregor looked pretty good in those scenes, but Hayden Christensen, I think, could have used a little bit more tweaking.
Yeah. There's things in that whole series, shots and just stuff, it's almost makes me feel like sometimes it's like, we don't have to spend the money to do this because it's Kenobi. That's what's selling it. So we can kind of ease off on some of the stuff because it's Kenobi.
I can see where that would have been their logic thinking behind it, because I think in production value, which after hearing this, I'm like, well, why didn't they put more money towards it? I think they only spent like $90 million producing Kenobi, or it was like $90 million per episode. I don't remember how the numbers are, but I think it might be $90 million in total. Whereas when Acolyte came out, they were spending like $180 million for that. So it was like, why wouldn't you put more towards one of your heavy hitting characters?
Well, and that goes back to, I think they thought the name. We can be a little lax on it because we got the name.
That's disappointing, but I think you're right. I think that's kind of just the nature of it now. But going back to the scenes with Anakin and Obi-Wan training in the temple, from a storytelling aspect, I loved how that was mimicking the like chess battle that Kenobi and Vader were dealing, were going back and forth with during the series. I loved how that paralleled, and I thought that from a storytelling standpoint, that played really well with each other. Yeah. And on top of that, actually, I mentioned this in the previous episode. The back to tank scenes were really good. I didn't like how Obi-Wan got there from the back to tank scene because of like the fire and everything like that. But that parallel was really good.
Right. Oh yeah. Really yep. For sure. I like that. So, you know, I think one of the going back to the budget and stuff like that, I think one of the biggest weaknesses for this series for me was the soundtrack. And I'm not trying to put down the person that did the soundtrack. I don't. But there's so much. I guess if they would have used his music, and then when there's times you should have used some of the themes we were familiar with, like if they would have played little snippets of like the Battle of the Heroes and stuff.
Oh yes.
During when Kenobi and Vader were fighting and stuff, and wait until to use the Imperial March until the very last scene with Vader and Palpatine, when he was walking down that street, and that if you would have had hints of that Imperial March playing, would have been incredible.
That would have
I'm not saying you need to use all themes you're familiar with. Tie in some of the new stuff, but there's times you should have used more of that.
For sure, it just would have added a little bit more to it. I think. No, I think that's. I agree with that for sure. Even from the trailer when Kenobi was announced, hearing the Duel of the Fates theme in the trailer, that's what instantly. I think that brought up a lot of hype in me because like the nostalgia from the prequels was dragging me on in there. So like, of course, using Battle of the Heroes would have been more appropriate. Just to have even just a hint of it in there would have been like, for us key watchers, we would have picked that up, and that would have just emphasized it a little bit more, I think.
Speaking of Duel of the Fates, speaking of that, it would have been neat to have, like, when Kenobi was pondering and stuff, like, if they would have showed, like, flashback scenes of things he's thinking about and stuff of the past.
Oh, yeah.
And if we could have seen a live-action version of him and Maul, their last duel where Maul gets killed, would have been... I like the way they did it in Rebels, but it's like, man, something like that I'd love to see.
Just in live action. I just feel like they have the people to do it. I just wanted to see that. I was hoping for that, but I figured it probably wouldn't come. But that was something that I was like, oh, that's on my wish list. That'd be cool to see. Redundant, I know, but I think it'd be cool just to have that live action touch on that scene.
And really, I guess they didn't even have to show. You didn't have to show the whole fight, even if they would have just showed snippets of him. Remember, and just seeing glimpses of it in live action would have been enough for me. So
I think that would have been nice. Yeah. So we've been kind of going all over the things we liked about Kenobi. What are more of the? Well, we've been hinting at critiques that we would have. What's like the one bit in the series that was just like, you think that was just completely unnecessary, besides the Reva attacking the Lars homestead near the end? What's like in the meat of it throughout the entirety of the story? What's something that you think was just unnecessary when it came to telling the story?
It's weird because as neat as it was to see the place, maybe when he goes to the Inquisitor base.
Yeah.
It was neat seeing the Jedi, like, that they had preserved and stuff like that. But that whole maybe going there and all that was maybe a little bit unnecessary.
Yeah.
And then the speeders too, the snow speeders. I guess maybe those are a little bit different model, but I didn't think again, kind of critiquing. I didn't think they looked very good. When I saw that we was going to see, I was like, well, cool, we get to see those again in live action. Then once I saw them, I was like, something seemed off. And I'm sure that was a different model or whatever. I mean, that's the easy way to do it. But I guess that whole episode where he went there didn't. Although there was, I'm not saying there wasn't some neat scenes in it.
For sure.
Yeah, when he's fighting the stormtroopers and the glass break and and all that stuff.
I think that was for me when they infiltrated the Inquisitors. What is it called? It's is it the Inquisitores or something like that? Or the place. It just seemed, I don't know. I feel like it could have been carried out a little bit differently, but you're right. There were some great scenes in there with him fighting off the stormtroopers and stuff. Mm-hmm. The biggest part that kind of stuck with me was how they escaped.
Right, yeah. That was
I couldn't really get over
kind of like,
that.
what do we do now? And they're like, oh, just put her under his jacket. Yeah, that was a little,
That was a bit on the nose for me, I think.
Yeah.
But, I mean, other than that, I think it played out pretty well. And I think I wish they'd, and I very much enjoy the actress that played young Leia. Mm-hmm. I have no complaints on how she handled the character. I wish that she wasn't the reason that he had to leave Tatooine. I know they had to give him a reason to leave Tatooine to play out the story, but I wish it wasn't because of her per se. Mm-hmm. But I see it's like a catch-22 because I enjoyed their interactions and stuff, but I don't know. I feel like when they were writing the script, they're like, we need to get him off of Tatooine. How do we do it? Let's bring Leia involved somehow. And I don't know. Out of all the people that Bail could have contacted, he had like so many different resources. I'm sure Obi-Wan, he couldn't have been the only guy that he could have contacted.
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember. Did he say anything about Yoda? Because Bail would have known.
Yeah,
So
maybe he just figured Yoda was too old,
Oh, maybe. I'm not sure.
Or, he may not have, as far as I know, I don't even think he knew where Yoda went.
Yeah, because the last time we saw him,
maybe he didn't even know if Yoda was still alive.
That's fair.
So,
that's fair.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. I don't know. This might be coming from me after hearing, and we'll get to that here in a little bit, but hearing what the original script was for the Kenobi movie trilogy that they originally pitched way back when. Hearing the ideas from that, I think has kind of got me wishing for something different. But I'm happy with what we got overall.
Yeah. I mean, there's things I would have liked to see. I would have liked to seen Cody involved somehow, because and granted, I don't read the current novels and comics and stuff anymore. I don't know if they've addressed what ended up happening. Well, I guess we did see Cody in Bad Batch a little bit, but kind of like what ended up being his. Not that we had to know everybody's fate, but he was one of the main clones. It would be kind of neat to see what became of him, and I think. In either that movie or one of the scripts, Cody was going to be with Kenobi and help him a little bit. That would have been kind of neat.
Okay, so on top of us mentioning Kenobi in passing in these past couple episodes that we've had, which sparked me wanting to do a whole episode based on what our thoughts of the show was as a whole, we heard, and these are just rumors and speculation, I don't think they've confirmed anything yet. They had an interview with Ewan McGregor recently that they wanted to do a season 2, or he wanted to do a season 2.
Yeah, he really wants to come back and do something.
And now, I'm not going to say we said it first, because there's probably been other people that said it first, but we mentioned using Ewan and getting him together with Hayden Christensen, Natalie Portman, all these Clone Wars characters, and doing Clone Wars flashbacks. And I'm pretty sure in the interview they mentioned something about putting him in the Clone Wars armor.
Yeah, he said he'd like to be in that armor. Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not saying we said it first, but it sounds pretty suspicious to me. Not gonna lie.
I got to pat myself on the head. They could. It seems like they're wanting to steer away from television now and focus more on movies. You could do a Clone Wars movie. You could do that as a movie, like a 2-hour movie.
Really
just have it be about one battle or something, and you could have some fun cameos. I mean, you
really
could. A lot of the prequel Jedi that we love, like Plo Koon and Kit Fisto, and they don't have to have a major role, but you have a Jedi Council scene, and there they are, or something like that.
That'd be really cool.
They could. While these people are available to us, and their age is okay, and everything. Let's do some
cool stuff with them. For sure.
Yeah, it would. Like I said, it wouldn't necessarily have to be a series. You could do I don't know what. Do you call it Clone Wars since you have the Clone Wars cartoon series? I mean, how do you call it something, and then like Solo was a Star Wars story? Do you say the Battle of whatever, a tale from the Clone Wars or something?
Tales of the Clone Wars or something. This battle or something like that. That'd be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be interesting. That'd be fun. I feel like that's something that they could definitely tap into for that. So, on top of the interview with Ewan McGregor, which kind of sparked this idea to go ahead and do an episode about the Kenobi series and talk about everything like that, I recently watched an interview that was made with the original writer for the Kenobi movie trilogy that they were going to do before they decided to turn it into a TV show. This was, I think they were in the talks about this all the way back when Solo was happening and everything. I believe the name of the writer is Stuart Beattie. Stuart Beattie. I'd have to check my notes. I'll check my notes real quick. I just checked my notes. If I'm mispronouncing your name, Stuart, I'm so sorry. But Stuart Beattie was the writer for what was to be the Kenobi movie trilogy series. And he had a nice interview with another Star Wars channel that's very popular, the Star Wars Theory. So I'm going to just kind of talk about some notes that I thought were interesting from the interview. Absolutely go check out his video. He did a great job interviewing. But I thought they had some interesting story points that I would have liked to see, and we've even made mention of some points that was in the original plan for the Kenobi series. So I wrote down a little list here of some points that I thought were definitely worth noting from the interview that he had. One of the biggest things that, and we've made mention of this, that it would have been nice to have seen, is that Cody would have definitely been prevalent in this series. I think a thing that we were kind of struggling with, not really struggling with, but I remember us talking about it when the series first came out, is like, to get Kenobi off of Tatooine, how could he just kind of like leave Luke unguarded like that? And that's what Cody was supposed to serve. He was supposed to be Kenobi's trusted sidekick, if you will, to stay there and watch Luke. And I think that would have been like awesome. Like if you wanted to have like kind of you have the main story going on with Kenobi off planet, and then cut back to little fillers here and there with Cody getting into some trouble on Tatooine, I think would have been awesome. So I wish they would have done that. And the main point of the story, they don't have, from what I understood from the interview, they didn't plan on using Leia at all. In fact, I think they said the age for Luke and Leia at this point was like 9 or 10, I think is what they were sitting on. The age of Luke would have been around 4 years old during this. So this would have been like 4 years after. So this would have been fresh. Okay. It would have been a lot closer. And I thought that was interesting to do that, because the main reason that Kenobi would have been fleeing Tatooine is that the Empire was spreading to Tatooine, and someone saw his face. I'm sure it's 4 years after Revenge of the Sith. Like everyone's privy to all the big hitter Jedi. So he needs to get off of Tatooine to go hide, or at least get the Empire off his back. So then that's when Cody would stay behind and kind of watch Luke while he flees for a little bit. And I kind of like that premise a little bit better. But like I said, I enjoyed the young actress that played Leia, and I'm glad we got what we did. But I think I would have liked to have seen this a little bit better. I think that's kind of a key hitter for me after watching it.
Well, the more I think about it, the best reason to have Kenobi leave Tatooine would have been, just like his fallen brother, he decided he didn't like sand, and he just had to get out of there.
It just got everywhere. Yeah. Like, you live in it for long enough, you decide, like, I'm tired of shaking out my pants.
They should have him laying there in his cave, just having this vision of all this sand. Like, now I know what Anakin was talking about. I can't handle this sand.
No wonder he fell to the dark side. I can't do it.
Too much sand.
That would have been, yes.
Now Cody, we would like to see Cody. Now, I like that. I really like that idea too. But then it brings me up to a scene I need.
Okay, what'd you need?
Much like I like seeing Luke and Ahsoka.
Yes.
I need that scene where they meet for the first time.
Yes.
Here,
yes.
I need the scene. The last time we saw Cody and Obi-Wan,
he was shooting.
Cody was blast him.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be long. It can be a flashback. I need that scene where the two of them come back together, reconnect.
Yeah.
And, that'd be really cool. That'd be a really powerful scene.
Exactly. But, and I feel like that would need to be addressed. And maybe they already mentioned something about this. I don't remember.
Yeah. I feel like the way they do, though, they would just be like, oh, by the way, these two guys are back together. Yeah. It is, but
he popped up,
Yeah. But boy, that'd be a really powerful scene.
I would have enjoyed that. And I feel like it's a lost opportunity to have used Cody because, we have Tamara Morrison out here to play all the clones and stuff, but we did see him in there because he played that veteran 501st clone trooper on that.
Should they had that been a veteran of Cody's guys instead?
212, is that?
Would that have been more impactful because Kenobi would have been like that? That was one of my guys. Or were they going for the 501st tie with Anakin?
Maybe.
Making them think, those guys were Anakin's guys.
I can see both, but I can't, I'm sure, they were portraying the veteran clone trooper as kind of, in a drunk slump. But, how do you not recognize Obi-Wan? If your general was Anakin Skywalker, he was always with Obi-Wan. How do you miss that up?
I watched that episode, just happened to be the other day, I watched that. There's a little bit of a pause there. Were they implying that maybe he did recognize him? And he's like, they've done to us clones like they did to you, Jet. Gotcha. You know what I'm saying? If you rewatch that, and maybe it's just me, but I almost felt like there does seem to be a little connection there. Maybe, if I remember, Kenobi even kind of just pauses, and maybe clones thinking, "Hey, I know who you are," but I've seen what this Empire did to us. Yeah. Now I realize we were wrong. So I ain't saying nothing. So
I might have to rewatch that scene. Kind of take a look at that again.
It could just be me. So maybe it's something I wanted to be there, and I'm
trying to project it. Let's see. What was another big hitter from that interview that I wanted to bring up? So we talked about how Kenobi's and Vader's first interaction, we weren't a big fan of how they met and clashed on that planet with the fire and the stuff that happened, and how they met in that little town, that little village. I wish that would have been more of kind of a cat and mouse, not necessarily a cat and mouse chase, but the more he's here, I got to get out of here, and I'm avoiding him.
I'm going off topic. When Kenobi was peeking out the door and seeing Vader, all of a sudden it just made me think he was that episode of SpongeBob where he's looking out the window. I'm sorry, for some reason that visual came in. That Kenobi's
that's good. That's good. I can totally see that too. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. But in the Stuart Beattie's written proposed story, they were going to have their final confrontation, which I enjoyed the final confrontation that we got in the series. They were to have that on a space station that Kenobi would have escaped to. This would have been like some kind of transportation hub where a bunch of starships were coming in and out of. Something happened to the space station, and now it's crashing, so everyone's evacuating, but these two are still going.
Oh, that would be kind of cool.
And that would have added kind of more like a, hey, if we don't get out of here, we're both dead kind of thing. And I would have liked to have seen that, because we've talked about how we didn't like Kenobi leaving Vader there on the planet, but like you can insert a narrative to that to kind of justify it. And I think what we've mentioned before, I think you might have mentioned it, is that maybe the Force was talking to Obi-Wan in that moment when he had beat Vader in that final confrontation that, hey, he needs to be alive. Like, I can't just kill him right now. Something bigger than me needs to happen, so I'm just going to walk away.
The only thing I wish they would have done, the dialogue before he left that ship, that refugee ship, and he's like talking to Qui-Gon, he's like, one of us is going to die today. And it's like, if they wouldn't have said that if they would have left that line out, would have been all right. Well, as soon as you say that, you're like, and then all of a sudden he doesn't kill him. It's like, well, you just said that one of us is going to die today. Why don't you?
I guess it's metaphorically speaking, like on the inside.
Okay, well,
I guess Anakin technically.
So technically, Anakin died that day to him. That he realized that's not Anakin anymore.
Technicalities, I guess.
All right.
In the final confrontation that Stuart Beattie had, again, totally sorry if I'm messing up your last name, Stuart. On the space station, they would have had Vader won that confrontation. And then somehow, like, they escaped, like, whether the space station, like, was blowing up and they both had to, like, leave or something like that, they would have had Vader won that confrontation, which I thought that's kind of an interesting...
Okay, and then Vader thinking maybe he killed him, he defeated him.
Yeah.
And then in New Hope, then he's like, and he's like, oh... Okay, I kind of like that.
That was a big thing that I picked out of that too. Huh. That was how Vader was supposed to get off of Obi-Wan's trails, because he thought he was dead.
I got him. Yeah.
So I got him. He's killed. He's done for. And that would have. I like that a lot better, because even though it's fun to see Vader in his, is it called Vader's castle or his palace or his Mustafar
castle?
Castle. It would have been cool instead of seeing him interact with the Emperor, and the Emperor basically saying like, hey, stop it.
Yeah.
Like, you got better things to do.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah.
It would have been better to have been like, all right, he's taken care of. I don't have to worry about him anymore. And then it's in A New Hope when he senses him, he's like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
Let's see. I think I might have had one more little bit. And I guess we kind of saw a little bit about this in the series anyway, but I like the notion of it. So in Stewart's adaptation of it, the main plot for Kenobi would have been about letting go and letting the will of the Force play out. So Luke would have been around 4 years old around this time, which is how he had it written, that he was about 4 years old. He would have been old enough to start training as a Jedi. And so being like guilt-ridden with the failure of Anakin, the Obi-Wan was to begin starting to train Luke, which I'm okay with, because at this point he's like young enough to where if he stopped, he wouldn't really remember it. But as Obi-Wan was starting to train Luke, he saw dark side tendencies, and he had to kind of like just step away from it. And so throughout the story of his character development, he begins to understand that the Force is telling him he needs to let go of training Luke, being that for him, and just being a guy on the side just to be that protective kind of guardian on the sidelines kind of character for that. So I thought that was an interesting...
The only problem I have with when you describe that, I can imagine Kenobi sensing the dark in Luke and standing over his crib with the lightsaber like Luke did with Kylo Ren.
It's the parallel.
Right? Yeah. I was like, oh no, not again.
So yeah, I thought that was an interesting way of it.
Yeah,
and like at the beginning, he's so detached from the Force because of everything that's happened. But then once he like finally lets go and is like, okay, the will of the Force needs to carry out. Then all of a sudden he gets his strength back as a Jedi. He's reconnected with the Force and everything else carries out. I thought it was interesting. Of course, go check out the video to hear more from the interview. Stuart had a lot of interesting talking points. There's a lot of stuff that I thought would have been cool to see. But I think overall, for the Kenobi series that we got, I'm pretty cool with what it was. I'd like to see a season 2 if they wanted to pursue it.
Yeah.
I don't know what story they would tell for a season 2.
Yeah.
To be honest
I think you leave that time period and go back and do a Clone Wars thing or something with them there would be my ideal. I mean, what would you have them do now? I mean,
yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, like,
you can't have them leave. You can't have them leave Tatooine again.
No.
I mean,
I guess you can have them get into trouble with like some bounty hunters and stuff like that.
The huts or something. So.
Yeah, but like other than that, but then that's like okay, or if he's doing too many things.
Bring in some of the legend stuff like the hits, the
Oshirad Het.
Yeah, the Tusken. Yeah, that'd be kind of interesting or something, I guess. But
you just got to be careful with them getting too involved in, like for the huts, for instance. You can't have them get too involved because then it's like, how do people not know he's here? Then he's supposed to kind of be hiding,
right? Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just it's a line, but I agree with you. If we were to get more of Obi-Wan, I'd rather just see a Clone Wars adaptation with the actors and actresses that we have available.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
I think that would be really cool.
Well, since we're talking about Kenobi, you want to get more general on Kenobi? So the character Obi-Wan Kenobi, let's think like the original trilogy. What's your favorite Obi-Wan scene from the original trilogy?
For me, it'd have to be him sacrificing himself to let Luke and them get away. So I think that was just like a moment. I thought that was really cool, a really powerful moment right there. And like the added context behind it that we've gotten from like the prequels, the expanded and everything else.
Because, really A New Hope's where you got Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi is just in there briefly. But yeah, you definitely the fight with Vader, then when he's at his homestead talking to Luke, that's the first time we hear about the Clone Wars and stuff like that.
Isn't it funny how that one monologue, or not monologue, but that one discussion right there just sparked this whole bunch of
that's
movies and shows and stuff like that.
And then prequel trilogy, probably Revenge of the Sith, fighting Anakin.
Yeah, that's by far to me one of my most favorite. Like that was my childhood favorite lightsaber duel. That's it for me. Yeah. Like that'll always be at least top 3.
Yeah.
So still on the topic of Kenobi, what did you think of? I thought the guy who did his voice acting for the Clone Wars series and everything did a great job with portraying Ewan McGregor's likeness of his voice. I thought he did a really great job.
Yeah, I liked how they portrayed Kenobi in the Clone Wars series for sure. So
definitely elaborated more on his character. So I think they did a good job of portrayal of him and almost every adaptation. I'd say I think he's kind of. It's funny, we were talking about Vader last episode and how I don't think Disney's really messed up with an adaptation of Vader in whatever series he's been in. Really, I don't really think there's anything like that for Obi-Wan for me. I don't.
Yeah.
I like we've mentioned. I'd say if he was handled a little bit different in some decisions that he made during the series, a little bit. But other than that, the prequels, I thought he was good. The original trilogy, I thought he was great. The Clone Wars adaptation, I thought he was great. So I don't think I have any quarrels with how they handled them. Really overall,
for sure. So
the Lego adaptations, I thought have been pretty good.
I hope we get in some fashion more of Kenobi,
especially since the actors are so keen on we've mentioned this about Tamara Morrison, Hayden Christensen. There's plenty of just really great actors out there that want to do more stuff. So I really hope that Disney, LucasArts just fuel that because you need that passion behind it.
Well, your generation of fans is becoming that age where you guys have your own families, you're working and stuff like that. And I feel like they're eventually going to start catering to, because, us old guys are eventually going to start phasing out, you know what I mean? So it's going to be, I think that would do a lot to, your generation is ready for some more stuff to deal with the stories that you grew up with.
Yeah.
My Star Wars is the original trilogy, where yours is more the prequel trilogy, because that's what your childhood memories are mostly of. So now here's a thought: they do a Clone Wars era Kenobi series and bring back Anakin, and Natalie Portman will at least even do a cameo as Padme or something.
Yeah.
Here's the big question, and I know we're supposed to be talking about Kenobi. Do you put Jar Jar in it? Doesn't have to have a big role.
Yeah,
but do you have just a little cameo of Jar Jar in there?
I feel like you need to. I feel like you have to.
Yep. Because I feel the feelings that people felt of that character have kind of settled down now, and I think it would, to use a wrestling term, get a big pop.
Oh, for sure.
Even if he was just standing in the background. Yeah. Or something.
Just a little pop up there. You had a shot of like the Senate building.
Yeah,
and he was there.
Yeah, he was there. Yeah.
I think it would.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool.
Now you can double up on that, because Ahmed Best, who played Jar Jar Binks, is also now canon as a Jedi. There, he's the one who
could do two roles.
He could do two roles at once. That'd be pretty cool.
I don't know why you would do it. That'd be funny having his Jedi meet Jar Jar. That'd be kind of.
That would be fun.
If you could come up with a little clever little brief moment there. Fun. But yeah, I think I think we need to see Jar Jar one more time. Doesn't need to be a great big long dialogue or big, but just a little bit of, just a little Jar Jar.
Just a little bit. Why not? He's run back his course, and now where he's back in like the good graces. Like I never had any quarrels against him when he was in the prequels and everything like that. I thought he was a fun side comedy character. But I understand that back in the day, everyone had their opinions on him and stuff like that.
For me, I didn't dislike him as much as everybody else. I thought maybe his goofiness was a little overdone for me, but the design of the character and all that, I think the Gun Guns look pretty cool. I thought there's a
I like the Gun Guns.
Neat alien, so I don't think I can think of anything else.
I always forget, when does Skeleton Crew? It's in November, isn't it? Or is it?
No, it's December 3rd, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, I forget off the top of my head. Third.
Because we don't got anything else coming until the December, so. All right.
I thought they were supposed to do another animated, you had the Tales from the Empire and the Tales of the Jedi. I thought they were supposed to be another, like, Tales of the Jedi Part 2 or something, somewhere along the line.
I hadn't heard anything, so interesting.
I think now we'll get Skeleton Crew and everything will be quiet on all fronts, even on the Mandalorian movie. Yeah. And then that Celebration next year is when we're going to get bombarded with stuff. So
I can see that. So,
and I'm kind of surprised there hasn't been any leaks or anything, at least that I've seen, from the Mandalorian movie. Seems like always somebody gets like a long distance shot of something, which is always kind of fun, because it's fun, like, ooh, what's that, or start speculating on that. So
must have been really tight to the hip on it, I guess, but I don't know, not sure.
I can't believe I forgot Andor too.
Oh yeah!
Oh my goodness, my favorite. Yeah.
So plenty of things to look forward to.
So I'm guessing that'll be like sometime in February that we'll get that will wrap up like right before Celebration begins. So, and I see Galen Erso, the actor, off the top of my head.
No. Lars. Yes.
Mikkelsen.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. I see where he's going to be at Celebration now.
Oh, really?
So maybe that opens up the possibility. I've seen other people mention it. Maybe he's got a little bit of a cameo or something.
That'd be cool.
In Andor, so
that'd be cool to see him pop up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so plenty of fun stuff to look forward to.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for when Skeleton Crew pops off.
Yeah, I'm really curious. Like I said, I have no expectations for that one. Just kind of see, just enjoy the ride and see what it's like. Now, Andor, I'm really got high, especially since you hear a lot of the actors saying it's even better than the first season. I know that's
you how always hype it up,
but it's like I've got high expectations for that one. So I hope it's as good. Yeah.
It delivers for sure.
Yep.
And I know we said it before in another episode, but they say it's going to change how you see Rogue One, and I'm hoping that's just going to exemplify it, because we had the worry, like, Rogue One was already great. Like, I think across the board, it's beloved by all the Star Wars fans. So, like, hopefully it's just an emphasis and not a detriment, you know? So, but I'm excited. I got pretty high hopes.
I think when they show the last episode of Andor, I'm going to make sure I got my schedule clear that day. I'm going to watch that last episode and then watch Rogue One right after it.
I think,
that'd be kind of neat if they put that last episode in the theater.
Oh, yeah. And then they had, Rogue One play after. It had, a whole, 3-hour stint.
Yeah.
That'd be
kind
cool.
of fun.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to wrap things up for today's episode. If you liked the video, please feel free to hit that like button down below. And if you want to keep up to date with us, please consider subscribing and following us on Instagram at the Scruffy-Looking Podcast. And until next time, may the Force be with you.